we're good.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still gonna talk.
No, that's fine. I was just saying we might.
Alright, good evening. If you're just joining us and slowly coming on in here, welcome. We are on technically day 7 of the search for Mr. Couch. You good? So we're going to be covering that tonight. If you've joined us for the past few nights, you'll know that anywhere between 10 and midnight, the scanner starts going crazy. It's, I think, just a lot of scared people and paranoia, and, you know, you've got the worry of copycats or just young kids being kids. Oh, that plane definitely didn't go to London. So anyways, we are watching the flight radar. And what we were just covering, I'll go over real quick since I'm pulling this up. So, an air evac life team helicopter.
Pulling in the Winsburg football game. Go ahead.
Okay, that's a call about a football game.
I'm gonna touch you to a CAD in reference to a clip. Guy said he knew you personally.
They're following up on a tip.
It's the end of Kirk Saturday.
So, what was interesting about this helicopter I'm following now, and I'll zoom back out so we can find it. It came out of Lexington, which is where they've been coming from, especially the medical helicopters. But it came all the way down a little bit south of London into a very particular spot of woods. And then it shot over to right in between Corbin and Woodbine, which is where Joseph Couch is from. And then it went through part of Daniel Boone National Forest past London and started to follow I-75. Now, right next to I-75, kind of a little bit before Mount Vernon, like in the Rock Castle area, for a good long while, it went under the radar or landed. Looks like it went just under the tree line. And right now it's back up in the air. And it looks like it's going straight to Lexington. I'm guessing probably to the hospital or that hangar where they keep them. We do have that PHI air medical helicopter back up. And that looks like it left. Yeah, again, it's leaving. They keep leaving the Aviation Museum of Kentucky. I think that's their hangar. So that one didn't leave the hospital. That one went up, and now it looks like it's on a straight path down to London. But we will keep an eye on that for sure. And then we've got this other one that looks like it's heading back. We'll see if it goes. If it's a medical call, it should have somebody on there and it should be going to the hospital. But if it's not a medical call and they were checking out a tip or something, then it'll be going back to the hangar. So we'll keep an eye on that. So London is right at the bottom, like the bottom right of the flight radar. And both helicopters, the one that looks like it's coming down to London and the one that left the London area, or the Corbin Woodbine area, they're facing in the same, like they're facing each other right now. So I wonder if one goes to refuel and then they bring another one out. It's all speculation. So we're going to be keeping an eye on that. I've got the scanner up. It's been pretty quiet. Been pretty quiet on the scanner. And then, of course, no new information, really. I thought for sure on Friday, you know, with it being Friday, there'd be a presser now that we've gone through a week and let us know. Maybe we'll get something tomorrow, but we're gonna kind of just hang out and see what happens. I guess now is the part where we just wait and follow this through. There we go. Both those planes are kind of hovering. Those helicopters.
Huh.
But they're real But they're real close to each other.
Let me show you the easy way I figured out how to do that.
Move this up for a second. You can actually do it right here. If you'll click on that down there. So it, or you can
Alright, I'm gonna focus in and zoom in on these two helicopters right now. You'd think they would be making a straight shot back to Lexington to the hospital or to that hangar. But it looks like they're just kind of really going slow over the forest. They're both kind of approaching the Kentucky River. I wonder if they're both going to drop down at the same place.
Could be.
Because if they were going back to the hangar, to the hospital, they'd be going straight there. They wouldn't stop and just hover or go much slower.
138. North. He was a TOB. November 15th, maybe.
And then this plane just popped up out of nowhere. It literally popped up. This PHI-2 just popped up.
Those helicopters keep just popping up.
No, this is a plane.
Oh.
The plane popped up out of nowhere and there's no information on it. It's just this PHI-2. And the helicopter's right behind it, and that's the PHI Air Medical.
Oh. Huh. I don't know.
And now here comes that other helicopter just crossing the river. So we've got a bit of activity right here.
Good. I got one born 0920 of 78. I don't know. There.
Let's see what's over this area.
Negative.
It's that Kentucky River. There's a water plant.
Dead wrong. Not showing anybody. Born in November.
Now they're booking it.
Cool.
Look how close they are to each other. And that plane popped up and it just says PHI-2. That's it. PHI-2. There's nothing else on it.
Oh.
And if you look at the line, this is where it took off from.
Oh.
This is where it started. Literally the middle of nowhere.
Oh.
That's a regular flight. They're flying the route of the Kentucky River. The plane's going a little faster Well, now it's going. But it stopped right when it got to the helicopter.
I didn't hear you say, is that a military plane?
It doesn't. So, okay, so let's look at the two things we have here. And then you can pull them up, or you at home can pull them up. So we have a helicopter. It says it is N307PH. That is listed as PHI Air Medical. We have seen that 4 days at nighttime. But when I was watching that specific helicopter in the area of woods it was, an airplane came out of the trees. Out of absolutely nowhere. I looked where it took off from. It does not say. It will not give any information. So I clicked on it. It says, the flight info is this. PHI 2. That's it. That's as much as you get.
And the way they're flying the same path is, and the way they followed the river down to a certain point.
Right. And that's a big fucking river.
Yeah.
So they have almost the same letters, and they both have PHI in it.
Huh. That's
Maybe look up PHI Kentucky. And the plane keeps staying back a little bit, and the helicopter goes first. And they're just all over Daniel Boone right now.
PHI is an air medical.
Right, that's what the helicopter says.
Right.
PHI Air
Okay.
Medical.
For Ohio 47.
But it says PHI 2.
Yeah,
And that's a plane.
Yeah, I don't know.
John
It does-
Union Adam
on their webpage, it doesn't
2647.
say they have
John Union Adam
planes,
2647.
but I don't know.
2010 Ford Silver to Jessica Manning, Dayton, Ohio. It's valid, expires October. 10 Ford. Can you tell if RO was awesome? Negative, no return Ohio. For OLs on the 47.
I'm trying to give a description of where they're at. They're really close to each other.
Good.
They just crossed.
Jessica Michelle Manning, all common spelling. Day of birth is October 30th, 1980.
This call is just running a driver's license for somebody out of Ohio. It's just a traffic call. Stupid.
Valid, no restrictions clear.
I wouldn't be that gung-ho about worried about passing out traffic tickets.
Yeah.
I'd be more worried about making sure it looks like we're doing our job of what we're paid to do,
Right.
which is not to monitor people's driving skills. I mean, if there's a drunk driver being crazy, absolutely, but
Right.
you know, don't pull somebody over for a tag light when there's a crazy guy on the loose.
Right.
I don't think that has to be said publicly. I think that's sad that should even have to be said, period.
Right.
So now that helicopter's pretty far from that plane, but I don't know, they might not be attached, but they both have PHI in it. So I'm thinking it's probably could just be a search thing.
Sorry, night.
It looks like that
2110.
plane is kind of just chilled. It's just chilling in the air. That's another strange thing. Is it like something helicopter investigations?
That this company does? No, it's a medvac police. They like fly people between the hospital. Like I said, it does not say that they have planes.
The
but-
plane's gone.
That's weird.
The plane landed in the woods. Very strange. And now that helicopter has kind of slowed down. Oh, now it's going fast. It picked up. We have another, we have that air evac life team up in the air again. Looks like they're leaving. Yeah, they're leaving the hospital. Or no, they're there now. And where did that come from? I think that's that one that came from Corbin Woodbine. Yeah, it is. That's that helicopter that came from Corbin Woodbine. So this PHI Air Medical, it looks like it's going still over the woods. I'm trying to see where it looks like it's going. It looks like it's kind of going towards 75. I'm guessing it's coming right down to London. It's still a ways out, but I don't know where that, yeah, I don't know where that plane is that just dropped down into the woods. Very strange.
Good.
My subject recovery works 312 career job. She's a recovery works all career. Standing outside wearing a pink hoodie while she's hearing voices. She's wanting to go to Philly.
Beautiful.
Sounds like more of a medical call. There's that air evac again. I think it's still at the hospital. And I still haven't seen that other plane come up, that PH plane.
That's weird how it just disappeared.
It went right into the woods, and the helicopter kept going. So I don't know. There is another plane right behind that helicopter that I keep going back to, but that's a flight. That's a commercial flight from like Kansas to St. Petersburg. It's just on the same flight path. Unless they have a commercial flight and they're flying over the woods and telling people to look out the airplane. Like they pass out complimentary binoculars.
2150.
I mean, even though they look close to each other, their commercial flight, that's like Allegiant Airlines. That should be high enough up in the air that it's gonna skim right over them. Now let me look at him again. It looks like he's stopped. Just going real slow. So if they're... And then they speed up. It's almost like they're just maybe using certain cameras. I don't...
Maybe.
It's heading towards I-75, and we'll see where it goes once it hits I-75. How strange. I don't know if they're going to this Kentucky campground and RV park. I don't know. He's hovering again. He's just hovering there. Oh, they made that plane go super fast past the helicopter.
That's weird.
It could be that it's like jamming some of their signals or interfering. I wonder if they found like a campsite, or you know, maybe somebody left a campsite up and they're just looking around because they're hovering. They haven't landed.
Right, I don't know. Or if somebody calls a tip. Well, we haven't heard anything with the scanner.
Right, but that's pretty far. That's not at all in Laurel County.
Right.
Oh!
Disappeared?
No, it shot off really fast. Like as if they were just kind of hovering and looking around, and then all of a sudden they got a call.
Huh.
And were told to go. So, that very strange behavior. It was hovering for, what, like a good 3 minutes, and then just took off. Now it's crossed I-75, and it's not following 75. I'm going to zoom back out here, and let's see. No, it looks like they're hovering again. Or just going slow. I'm going to keep eyes on this. You know what you could do for me is maybe pull up the flight radar too, and when I'm zoomed in, you can stay zoomed out.
Okay.
And there he goes. He's taken off really quick again. He's going fast. Let's see. I'll zoom back out and see if it looks like he's going to London. I mean, he's still a ways from London. Where they were searching when they got down below the trees, when they were just kind of, I don't even think they went below the trees because it never dropped off of our radar. Now that airplane did. It took off from what looked like the woods and then went down back into the woods. And it had the same PHI as this helicopter. And we still have yet to see that plane come back up. No idea where it went. I'm checking all these little ones and I don't see it. It's easy to notice because it's called PHI-2, and it's definitely an airplane. And this helicopter is the PHI Air Medical, but it didn't look like they were on a medical call, because now with it being this many days, we can predict what's going on with these helicopters. If they go back to Lexington, we can see if they go to the hospital. If they go to that hangar, we can see that as well. So it wasn't a medical call, because they stop, then they take off real fast again. So it could just be that they're, you know, using cameras and just kind of looking around. But it also doesn't make sense when they stop and then they don't just start kind of hovering and going slowly, like they're continuing, like they say, okay, this area is clear, we're going to keep looking. They stop and hover, and then they book it.
Right.
London 319.
Let's see where they're at.
27.
10-4 break.
Go ahead.
1029, Kentucky 90, 1029, Kentucky 90, break.
And we do have the scanner up.
Well, subject called him. I think I spoke to his 13-year-old daughter in 40 minutes. He's wanting a welfare check on her. Pricey has a divorce agreement in Indiana stating he's supposed to get that every other weekend. However, him or the mother of the child has not been following this order, and he has now requested a welfare check. 1029, Kentucky 90.
So that call, and let us know if you guys hear it a little bit better than when I had it on the phone. I have it through a Bluetooth speaker now. It sounds like to us there's less static, so you guys can let us know, or if you heard it better through the phone, we can go back to that. The call that just came in was somebody's not following a divorce decree, and the father's in Indiana. Which, surprisingly, is where Joseph Couch's father lives. But this isn't for that. This is for a 13-year-old, and they want to do a welfare check. The father's requesting it. So I'm going to look. I mean, they're still just in this one little area. They're off of Scaffold Cane Road. Middle of the boonies, that's for sure. And they're a pretty good distance from I-75. About a couple miles, I would say. Yeah. If not more.
Probably more.
And again, they're just hovering. Now, it could be that they have a list of places or a list of tips, and they're just going to fly by at night and kind of look over. Oh, and it's gone. He gone. He landed. There is a cemetery right there. I don't know why that theory keeps coming up that he'd go to a cemetery.
Yeah, I don't know.
45 197 here on the road.
Somebody's buried there.
He has a 2-year-old nephew that passed away.
That must be what it was. They said, I think it was a child, definitely. They said was buried there, so that must be what
but why would you?
I don't know.
Yeah.
People are just trying to grasp at straws to figure out why they haven't found him yet.
Yeah, definitely. That custody thing, he said, the officer said, like, no parent is following what they're supposed to do. But, you know, it sounds like the father's out of state and the mother's not answering. I don't know why a 13-year-old child is left alone when there's a manhunt going on in that area. Very odd. Weird stuff. But they must have found something worth dropping down. I don't know if they landed, but we'll know once they come back up if they just drop below the trees or if they... Yeah, I think it is more clear to me, even just coming through the Bluetooth speaker than listening to it on my phone, for sure. It definitely sounds more clear. And that static was just bugging the heck out of me. Yeah, still not up. Very strange. And you know, we did... Oh, let's see what this is.
Do it.
Will you check? See if he's called this yet.
Nothing. Alright. So, I mean, we were kind of following stuff throughout the day, but it was super quiet. Even on the scanner. We were gonna pull up... We found some people that did some live streams that live in that area.
Getting hold of him, they're specific that we're checking on anything he suspects.
They just want a welfare check. They didn't state anything specific.
That's kind of odd, that welfare check call. I don't know, that's just weird. Hopefully it's just a concerned divorced parent who, you know, the other...
I don't know if he was supposed to get the child and they didn't show up.
And they didn't show up. I don't know, just weird.
Or he can't get in touch with the child like he calls every day. You know?
Right. Hopefully that's alright. And everything's okay with that. But we were gonna pull up, we saw some different people, you know, that went on like X or Facebook Live or TikTok and or even Instagram Reels and stuff like that. And we found some locals and we were gonna play that for you guys. They kind of drive around the area. I mean, I'm sure you can find it online, but the reason we don't want to play it is because nothing solid or concrete was really given to us from those. like, for example, the one guy, he was younger that was being interviewed, and he said, oh, the guy, I saw the guy, and it looked like he was kind of acting weird. He's kind of real quiet and soft-spoken, reserved, but he was wearing blue jeans and a blue t-shirt, which was the description of what Joseph Couch was wearing. But the guy that was saying this was wearing the exact same thing, blue jeans and a blue t-shirt. And he said, and the guy looked like he had something that he was carrying down by his side. And I told him, look, man, there's a manhunt in this area. There's cops everywhere. You better run. Get out of this area. And he did. And then that guy thought, well, who knows? That was suspicious. Then he called law enforcement and told them about this guy he saw. Didn't tell law enforcement that he told the guy to run. And he said he's hoping on picking up that $35,000 reward because, you know, he had a sighting of somebody. But very odd. When they asked for a description of like what he looked like, he said just like the picture that was released. But I mean, we've seen multiple pictures, some with facial hair, some with not. Some where, you know, the biceps look larger and some where they look smaller. So we kind of paused at that and thought we're not going to share it because it sounds more like hype and people just wanting to collect reward money, and it just didn't seem, nothing that was interesting to us. There's another interview we saw that was with a neighbor of Joseph Couch's, and the guy said he doesn't know him, but his brother knows him, and quiet guy, nice, polite, no issues, which that didn't really tell us much either. So yeah, and we'll listen into the scanner and keep, you know, eventually here we'll compare cases. We got some stuff ready, and if it gets quiet, we'll try to have some fun and see what's going on around the rest of the U.S., listen into what's happening in big cities, and those are always fun.
We have the timeline.
And we can do the timeline and go over like the facts and the evidence and stuff like that.
1:35.
And of course, listen to this.
Good. 97. 21 seconds.
I'm going back up to Lexington here. I see. Oh, that's like Cincinnati. Too far. Too far. Yeah, nothing. Oh, wait, we've got a helicopter back up. Yep, this is that air medical. It did pop back up. It must have landed. It did not go in between the trees or below the trees. It actually did land. It is back up, and it looks like it's coming to London. So we'll see. I mean, if it were a medical call, I think they definitely would be going back somewhere. So I wonder, and they might just be searching, really. Even if they're just looking for more campsites, I don't know. They're definitely in the forest. And you know, I saw something when I was looking back into oh, it took off. It's booking it. When we were comparing this case to the Danilo Cavalcante and even Brian Landry, there was another case. I want to say it was in Pennsylvania. Eric was the first name. His last name begins with an F. And
EMS Station 2 needs at Consent 75, Highway 770, Final 6, infection.
That's a medical call. See, if Mark came in like that, we wouldn't be wondering what in the hell is going on. Like, wish more calls would come like that, because that would make it so easy. what were we on before
We were
that?
talking about the Pennsylvania case.
Oh, that Pennsylvania case. So that guy, Eric, whatever, he was gone like 48 days or something like that. Couple months, something crazy. I'll look into that one more. We just more pulled Cavalcante and Brian Landry to compare it with this.
45. LA 50 London.
LA 50.
Show us 10
Hey Jeff, how's it going?
Let's do it again. Oh, look. 31887. 31887.
Jeff, if you want to be a...
2132.
I can never talk. It's a stupid medical call.
He should be there if I get on. You go in. Break your arm, come.
Jeff, if you want to be a moderator, let us know, because we've only got one moderator besides us.
8692 times 2132 and 2133.
So yeah, I mean, that guy, and they found him when they did finally find this Eric guy. The funny part is that he was only within 2 miles of that woods. And they just found him. He just came walking on out. I just wish we'd get, the difference though with this case and like Cavalcante is it feels like law enforcement was actually giving more answers even if they didn't have answers. And obviously those were cities where they were a little more equipped. This whole thing, the only thing we've been saying is it's strange. There's a lot we don't get, a lot we're not understanding. Things aren't very clear. But if you were with us the past few nights, you know that it gets crazy at night. Just not even the amount of calls, the type. But we still have yet to figure out who stole that man's mailbox at 2:44 in the morning. So real quickly, I'm going to look through events around, the U.S. This is our on patrol for the evening. A lot more building fires. Obviously, those come up first for me, being a firefighter. For some reason, it thinks that I'm just going to put on my turnout gear and go to the airport and hop on the next flight to whatever city. Listen to this. London County, Connecticut. Major vehicle accident. Car into the woods, fully engulfed with trapment.
Wow.
Woo-wee.
Northwest Road, Buffalo, 351, it is 1363, red, F-115, Farming.
One at a time on the radio, please. Uh-oh. Police chase in Michigan. Again, Indianapolis is just another active shooting. It says that all the time, though. All right.
My contact with.
But getting one more unit 940 to jail. The subject in our car is advising he's going to be getting into a fist fight with the police at the jail.
Definitely.
Hey Rod, just hang tight out there. And the last thing I can only think of would be the Nicki Minaj pickup. But I think Chuck is trying to bail on that, so he's going to let me know. Hey Rod, just hang tight out there. And the last thing I can only think of would be the Nicki Minaj pickup.
I found the important impact. 1609.
This was the call earlier about the buzzards
Like that thing on it.
in Laurel County.
815. I walked the wood lines. I walked the field. I didn't see any buzzards. I didn't smell anything or see anything out of the way either. 1436.
So yeah, that was that. I'll go through more of those later. We want to get back to Laurel County.
2. 10.
Okay, so we've got Laurel County back up. So that's kind of fun. Let's look in on this helicopter.
2138.
Well, it passed the airport. It might turn around. But now it's officially in London. That's that stupid Savannah flight. And yeah, there's like nothing else out. We have another helicopter up in Lexington. I'm guessing that's going to be a medical call. Yeah, that's that air evac. Which I do have their air evac scanner. Oh no, they're going back to the hangar. Okay. So they're going back to the hangar up in Lexington. And then, yeah, see, this guy is going to turn around and land at London.
You might tell Jeff they're discussing what his theory is, that we're going to do a timeline here shortly.
Yeah, so we're gonna be, I mean, our live videos are up. So this case is interesting. This is what we've been following mostly, is looking for old Joey C., Mr. Joseph Couch. Joey C., give it up, my mans. The gig is up. Come on. Walk out of them woods. I honestly, if I had to come up with one theory and stick with it, I'd say, See, they don't want me to say my theory.
US Station 1, emailing a contact. Circle, seizure.
Seizure.
49.
Maybe that medical helicopter will go back up. It landed. But yeah, so the shooting occurred. We'll kind of go over the timeline. Now would be as good a time as any, I guess. So the incident occurred late Saturday afternoon, early evening in London, the city of London, Kentucky, which is in Laurel County. Right off of exit 49 on I-75 at a little truck stop, gas station called the 49er. And there's a lot of hills and cliffs and stuff like that. Not like huge, huge mountains, but definitely more rugged forest terrain. And the shots rang out. People could see the shots, but they could not see a person. He was well hidden. And he shot 5 people in their vehicles. 5 were injured. They're all actually 4 of them are already out of the hospital and doing fine. There's 1 more still in the hospital, but she's expected to survive and be fine. That's still that seizure call.
1040, familiar with Combs Circle, off West Royal Road.
Let's make sure.
10-4, numeric is 306, Combs Circle, Sugar House, the roundabout driveway, 18-year-old male, correction, 18-year-old female with seizure. Any advice she has a history of seizures, 3 for that number of times?
Yeah, so 18-year-old female seizures.
Round number 8693, 8693, dispatch 2139, got you rounded 2141.
So the shots rang out like between like 4:30 and 5:30 on Saturday. Officers got there. They shut down I-75. They didn't start going out towards the wood line until like 2 hours after the shooting occurred. So that's a 2-hour window that leaves a lot of possibilities. This guy could have had an escape plan or some help. He could have hopped on a train. He could have hopped on an ATV. There's all those ATV trails. He could have had a kayak waiting somewhere and moseyed on down the river. Mosey on by. But there's so many things he could have done. And the more reports that come out about his background, it sounds like he was very prepared.
And we're going to play a timeline, too, that shows...
Yeah, we have a video we pulled up. Once the scanner gets a little quiet, we'll play it, and we'll keep it up. Maybe we'll even upload it as a separate video.
I'm going to put it on our channel, too.
Yeah, we're going to put it up on our channel, so, you know, if you have to hop off or something like that, you can always come back and watch it whenever you want. So we're going to be putting that up. The weird thing, though, is... So, we're kind of talking about the evidence we have. So, Saturday night, nobody put out an alert system. Nobody's really reporting on it, except these streamers. The news will put out some stuff, like a little article online or a quick 2-minute video, but really nothing. So, people didn't either know something was happening, or they weren't getting straight answers of what's going on if they knew there was an incident. We know that police confirmed that they found the AR that he bought Saturday morning along with 1,000 rounds of ammunition, and they found his cell phone battery. And his ex-girlfriend / baby mama said that she called the cops before the shooting even happened, and so that she received a text from him that said he's gonna hurt all these people, possibly kill them, and then he was gonna hurt himself, and he wanted to hurt his family. But the family hasn't been attacked, and I mean, luckily nobody passed away from this that we know of. They were just injuries.
Really 50.
But
98, that's bad.
it is considered to believe he's got more than one weapon. That was just the one he bought that day. And they still say he's armed and dangerous. So even if they found a weapon, they thought he still had stuff. And he was a survivalist. He was a wilderness person. We're trying to figure out the whole military thing of it. Obviously, I really want to know. You know, the Kentucky National Guard spokesperson said, "We have no record of Mr. Couch ever being in the National Guard." But some people have said he was Army Reserves. I know that he was not active duty like regular U.S. Army. So, very, very strange. And you would think that person that was a spokesperson for the National Guard would be able to say a little more. Once he said they have no record, the cops would clear it up. I mean, they are able to look into his background. And then, you know, there was a lot of searching over the weekend. The mayor of London, Kentucky came on, he did like a live stream from his kitchen on Saturday night. And told everyone they're safe.
97-year-old senior-old. She won't contact.
They're still going out to that medical.
She's not. She was able to describe the subject she's seen.
Oh, this was that
on the phone.
suspicious
I'll
male.
talk to her now.
10-4. I'll give her a call, but I'm in her area right now.
10-4.
And this has been every night. They get these suspicious calls, and then it just turns out to be nothing. I can't even imagine how afraid those people are over there. And when you're not getting any accurate information, even if he hasn't been caught and you can't discuss the details of the case or what evidence you have because that's going to be used in court or whatnot, I mean, I totally get it, but they've still stuck with the narrative that they know he's within a mile radius of exit 49. It wasn't till this afternoon that Kentucky State Trooper, I called him Scottie Pippen again. Scottie Pennington Good Lord, Aliana. So today, that Trooper Pennington said that they're going to be going farther into Daniel Boone National Forest. If it takes day 7 to realize you've got to expand the search, that's a little sus in my opinion. But we'll see. At least they're finally admitting that he might be farther than they thought.
11:45.
Let's see what this is. It's just, and nothing in this case is
There's a
adding
trade
up.
center. There's female 1012. Right for ending. 31905. 31905.
905. But yeah, Jonathan, that's what was
21.8.
really bothering us too, is that you would think they'd call in some help, which that's also conflicting reports. So Fox 56 News out of Kentucky talked to Laurel County Judge Executive David Westerfield, and he's the one that's kind of in charge of putting out a state of emergency, which he said he issued a state of emergency Monday morning at 8 a.m. Then he went on to say he doesn't know where the National Guard is or why they haven't shown up. But we know the National Guard was there on Saturday night when they had to shut parts of I-75 down. They reopened it that night, but we've seen the National Guard, we've seen the Army helicopters. And that's why you need to that's why you do the state of emergency, is so these small little towns can bring in bigger cities or federal resources. And we've seen the resources trickle in, but they announced during this press conference, and this guy could obviously be listening in, but they announced they're going to be searching during the day, and for law enforcement safety, they're not going to be searching at night. Now, they can't tell us what evidence they have or what reason to even believe that they think he's still in that area, but they can tell us when they're going to search and not search. Weird. It's not adding up. And, even if I can understand, if you're bringing in bloodhounds or cadaver dogs from out of state, or bringing in volunteers, and I mean, with the rain that came in last night and, sinkholes starting, I get it, and the safety of people. But during the day, keep boots on the ground, and at night you can bring up helicopters every so often and maybe section off, at least in my city, what we would do is we'd section off parts of the city and the forest and stuff like that, and we would have the helicopter go out, clear that area, not necessarily looking for one person, but signs that somebody was living in that area, like set up camp, or a fire was going at one point. Anything left behind, like clothes, I mean, that you can see using infrared, and it's like they can put infrared and they can put thermal imaging up on these helicopters, and that would help a ton. And tonight we have seen helicopters going up and kind of scanning. And then we've seen weird things where they drop down.
45.
But really, no. I just.
2151.
I don't I mean, let me zoom out on this flight map real quick. Still nothing's up in the air. Just planes. So there is a helicopter that looks like it's right at the border of Kentucky and Tennessee. And it's kind of hanging out around there by the border. and it's been dropping below the trees. And it looks like it's kind of around, still down the path of 75, but up by this Norris Lake and Chuck Swan State Forest. I don't know where that helicopter is out of. It could be Tennessee. It says UT Lifestar, and it's operated by Medtrans, so I'm thinking it's University of Tennessee. But why they keep dipping that low and searching that area, which I'll pull up the flight path again. So where did they take off from? They took off from the American Museum of Science and Energy in Tennessee, right at the border of Tennessee and Kentucky. And then they went into the forest. They crossed 75, went to the other side of 75 and searched that area forest. Those are commercial. And now it's just kind of hanging out by Sharp's Chapel. There's a campground, a school, and there's this big Norris Lake. There's a swimming cave. Let's look at this Norris area. Right on the border of Tennessee and Kentucky. So it is off of I-75. They have that Norris Dam State Park, Cove Creek Wildlife Management Area, Norris Lake. They have a big swimming cave. Big Ridge State Park. Norris Shooting Range is up in the mountains. I mean, whew.
Yeah.
And now they're back kind of into Tennessee. I don't see where the border is. It must. But look at that. It's like right by Knoxville. Right above Knoxville by that Norris Lake. And I noticed that's right on the border. That could be something. And then nothing else up in the air. And I mean, so yesterday we pulled up a picture of the caves in the area. There are a ton, but within a close by radius of where the actual shooting occurred, there was only 3 caves within a couple miles, maybe even more, maybe within like 5-10 miles. There was only 3 caves that we saw, and they weren't big. They were pretty small. I mean, you couldn't stand up. You couldn't stand up and walk around. You could either sit or lay down, but there was nowhere that like the cave curves and you can hide. I mean, it's just like
Definitely nothing like Mammoth Cave.
Yeah, definitely not like Mammoth Cave. It was more like, yeah, you could get in there and then kind of stay hidden or sleep during the day even, but it would be real easy to send a drone in there. Real easy.
Right, and that's what I was telling Jeff in the chat. You know, I'm surprised they have to have dogs and stuff to search for missing people with all those hiking trails and stuff that go through those woods because of, that national forest. I'm just surprised. I know it's thick, but it's not really all that bad. I mean, it's thick, but not ridiculously so thick they couldn't maneuver through it.
Right, and I mean, these people, I think that's what is getting so many people that live in that area upset, whether they're going out looking for this guy because of the reward money, which that still hasn't changed. It went from 5,000 to 10,000 to 25,000, and now it's at 35,000. But that hasn't changed in a couple days. There are, like we talked about a little bit earlier, there are people that, went on TikTok or Instagram or Facebook Live, and they're locals, and they're all over it and going up by that exit showing that there's police presence or it's still closed, but there really wasn't a lot of police presence that we saw. which could be a good thing if they're not contained to that small area, but it really sounded like there's two different things happening, that there's people going out there that live there and are trying to collect the reward money, and I think there's also people that more have an attitude like Tony and I, where it's like, okay, this is ridiculous. I'm prior military. I was not like a Navy SEAL or anything, but I mean, I have combat training. I was a combat medic with 3 deployments. I mean, how hard can it really be? And if the officers don't want to risk their officer safeties, or volunteer teams, if they don't want to, the officers don't want them risking their safety, I get it. But nobody can tell me I can't risk my own safety. And nobody can tell the civilians this. So are people just going out there looking for this guy because they want to bring peace to their community?
Right.
I mean, we see that in a lot of these cases.
Well, you're seeing too, like Jeff earlier, who didn't know a lot about this case, it's just so little national coverage.
There is so little national coverage. I mean, I spoke with the family because I thought if this guy got in a vehicle, whether he took one or he had aid, he gets on 75, he can be as far north as Michigan or as far south as Florida within, 15 hours.
Right.
And if he got...
25 on 10
Let's see what that is.
Crash 1 at 10 p.m.
That was just somebody signing off for the night.
10 more you do.
But we'll go into this in the video, which I think we'll just post on our channel, but it might be hard to kind of play it unless it really settles down for the night. Or maybe that's what we'll close the night out with, and we'll just keep it up we'll post it separately on the channel. Because we made like a fun little PowerPoint. We made like a whole little segment, like a little show. But if we real quickly just kind of go back and talk about Landry and Cavalcante in this. So with Danilo Cavalcante, he was up in Pennsylvania. He was in prison. He was about to be sentenced to life in prison, or start his prison term sentence.
It's 319 left.
Let's see what this is.
LA 49 on.
Caller sent a text down here to this female saying she's going to call the police because she hasn't answered the phone in 30 minutes. Can you get him back on the line through post 11? I'm doing it good.
So that was Kentucky State Police calling that a woman called back and said it's been a half hour and someone's still not answering the phone. So it's another welfare check. I wonder if we're going to start getting more of those calls.
Right.
But with Cavalcante, it took 14 days to find him, and he was in the woods in Pennsylvania. He kind of just came on out, and what was interesting is he had a very close relationship with his mother. So they ended up having her record some things, and then they gave her a megaphone and brought her around, and she was talking directly to him, and that's what brought him out, was his mom. Brian Landry down in Florida with the really sad case with Gabby Petito, his girlfriend. We know that they went back down, that Brian Landry went back down there, and it was... A lot of people were saying that seemed like the parents were helping him and aiding him. And law enforcement looked everywhere, thought he was in the swamp, really thought they were going to find his remains if he got, attacked by an alligator or some type of wildlife down there. And then a big storm came in and the water level rose in the swamp. And then once the water level came down, Brian Landry's parents took law enforcement and walked him straight to where his body was, where his remains were. They knew he was deceased. They knew the exact location. It's not like they went searching. like made a straight beeline and showed law enforcement where he was.
And that was one of the cases I was going to pull up tonight if it slows down. So.
Right. Now people have speculated.
I've tried it twice, negative contact.
So they did not make contact with that person.
And 10-4, if you don't care, just log that and nothing going on in the house. And if we do make contact, we're going to advise them for harassment.
Okay, so the way they're going to handle that is they got a call for a welfare check. Went out there, found nothing. Caller called back and said, still haven't heard anything. And so they said they went out there, saw nothing, made no contact, and they're going to make note of it.
We're surprised they haven't found this guy yet.
Now we have a call coming through about another suspicious male. So with this case, though, people were saying there were conflicting reports, which is that...
It looks like it's going to be the first road on the list as soon as you go over the line. The name of the road's Chimney Rock Church Road. Be around 876 Chimney Rock Church Road. 998. I was looking like he's on thing.
So the conflicting reports with this guy, you know, our old Joey C., our friend over here, the family history is very complicated. We do know that. And that's not something we've talked a lot about because it is a bit of a tragic family history. And out of respect for the family, you know, we don't want to bring up their past, but the Joseph Couch, the family went through a lot of hard times with the death of a small child at 2 years old, and I think there was a child that never made it to term either. So the family's been through some hardships. Now, a lot of people, the first night this broke, you had, you know, internet warriors and investigators trying to look and find private Facebooks. His mother was active on Facebook the night of the shooting, and she was, you know, defending him, but not his actions of what he did. She was more saying that, you know, he has been struggling with some mental health issues and stuff like that. But we don't really know much of his mindset and how much he's been through, so that would have been nice to get more information. But it seemed a lot like she was defending
I've got
him.
public service if you'll call post.
But there's reports that him and his mom had a not so great relationship. So I don't know if he'd really be... It sounds like the person he was always closest to is his brother and his dad. So we'll see. But that's about as much information as we've been given. Everything else we've figured out on our own by piecing things together, listening to the scanner, watching what's going on in the sky. We had an idea that possibly with it being Friday night, you know, on Friday and Saturday nights, things pop off a lot. So it could be a lot busier over the radar tonight, or, on the scanner. Last night was absolutely terrifying. So let's talk about the scanner.
Calling the post. Can you connect me? That individual's 88. I'm having a
So a lot of these streamers are listening in to public scanners. And they're using Broadcastify or some type of streaming service like that. What we are using is different. We're still using a scanner app that I have on my phone, but my version, there's the app I have has 3 versions. So they have a free version which has countless ads. Like every time a call is done coming through the scanner, you get an ad, and the ad will play, but then you can't hear the scanner. It's a hot mess. And then there's the paid version where all it does is get rid of the ads. And then there's the version I have, which I don't think they can do paid, like ads versus no ads. The version I have is given to us through the city I work for. So instead of having those actual big heavy duty like CB radio scanners that people would keep in their homes, we log in through our department, and if there's a big incident or event and they need to call people that are not at work, that are off duty, if they need to call them in, like if there's a 5-alarm fire, box fire, they can contact us right through our scanner app. Even if the scanner app isn't open, it'll come on and it'll sound like a really loud klaxon, and they can talk to you directly through it. With my version, if I get a call directly to me, or there's a call that goes out for everyone off duty to come in to help, then I can also check back in with dispatch straight through my app. And it's just like if I were on the clock in the department. And that's how they keep track of us. It's easier than sending out text messages or having a captain or chief start going down the list and calling people. So, sometimes I like to just keep things light and fun with the city I work in, and I'll call back and talk through to dispatch on here, whether I'm working or not. Like when I would be at work, I'd call in, and I have some of my friends there that I've known for a while, and I'll say, "What are you eating? I can tell you're eating something." I haven't had dinner. And just talk to them. I'll come through and just hassle them and say, "Speak clearly." And I just give them a hard time, but they know who I am. They recognize me all the time. But I thought maybe there would be some ways. I mean, I log in using my badge number, so if I were to answer back to any of these scanners, it's going to show my badge number, which a small city, like if I went in to a small city and answered their dispatch, they would just be confused, or they would think there was a mistake.
Good.
Let's see what this call is, and I'll finish that.
$84. Complaint over there. Off 80.
I swear sometimes they just answer dispatch on here by growling, and they can understand the growls. I mean, that man was like, it's an 80. Missed that first part, bro. Take that piece of weed out. Speak clear. But last night,
84, we're getting every other word.
my scanner version went down. So Laurel County took off all their public scanners and even their private. And they were only communicating via handheld radios.
Sorry, I'm just radio signal here. What units do you got right to that complaint over? Okay.
Let's see what this is.
I've got 998, 422, and 112, and 868, 998 out there at the residence right now speaking to the female.
Okay, that's that female with the suspicious male.
10-4, just be advised, I've got the resource en route with a thermal drone. If one of them want to 6 me, I'll bridge them up on.
Joey C, come out of those woods. Come out wherever you are. Maybe Joey C will pop up in our chat. No. Which
No,
Joey
you
C,
know.
we don't know, but...
I'll turn back around. I'll put 998 and 112 on the way out. I tried to signal 6 her. She didn't answer, but I guess she's going out when 998 was going down that way. I'll turn around and go back to it.
10-4.
Okay. So, that call they were talking about is that female that called in and said there was a suspicious male. Tony is trying to pull up a good video on the Michael Bollinger case. That's not one that I've heard compared to this, so that'll be interesting. But the calls that come through, I mean, first of all, it's very rural. It can take them up to half hour to even get out there to respond to the call. But, I mean, just very strange that last night they started using just radios or private cell phone, you know, their private cell phones to communicate. And they were off for like a good, maybe 45 minutes to an hour.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Jeff, if we get a Joey C in here, I'll expect him to say something like, "Hey, there's not a lot of food in these woods. You got a can of beans?" Oh, hell, it's Joey C.
Negative at 1
I'm 5-5 up touch coverage. Won't go through. Oh, I got a new number. What's
But one way or another, I want to solve the mystery of this mailbox. So, Jeff, you weren't here the night of the mailbox. It wasn't last night. It was the night before, the first night we started this. The scanner was going crazy all night. Like, it's a lot of, like, paranoid people. Anyone that looks suspicious, people were calling in, which is a good thing. This guy called frantically at 2:44 in the morning to report that his mailbox was stolen. So for days we've been trying to figure out the mystery of this mailbox. He really loved that mailbox.
And the road keys.
And then we had a story.
Station 2, Bill Units come 10A, 279 West Cumberland and Gap Parkway, Pilot Travel Center, 6-year-old male, nausea and vomiting.
All units available for a 6-year-old male with nausea and vomiting.
LA 50.
Show us, Johnny.
That is bad enough to get me to respond over the scanner to dispatch and say, really, y'all need all hands on deck for that.
6-year-old male, he's extremely sick, been sick for a while, nausea and vomiting. He's going to be at McDonald's. He's going to be wearing a blue shirt and blue pants. Right front and time.
But he is wearing a blue shirt and blue pants. The description of Joseph Couch.
Road number is 8694, 8694, dispatch 2215, route 2215.
So we have some more. I just had a helicopter pulled up. And it disappeared around I-75. And it was a different one than that PIH one, or PHI one. And then I had a second one below that. And while that call was coming through, I was like, oh, let me look at these two helicopters. And now they're both down. There's... That one's pretty far. That's by Louisville.
Hospital service with 84. Is that why he's already in?
Yeah, 10-4. Use phone number.
Yeah, I dug it out of my old phone. You saw me 97 here with 998 and 112.
Can you pull up the flight radar, Tony?
Yeah, I got it up.
So look over by Louisville. North of Louisville, we have that PHI helicopter up. And then south of Louisville, around between Elizabeth and Cecilia, we have another helicopter. And then we have a third helicopter just south of Louisville, approaching Bardstown.
Yeah.
So that's 3 in the Louisville area.
That one near Bardstown is really interesting because it's an air methods. I don't know. I'm just gonna look up and see what air methods is because I'm not familiar.
I mean, air methods is usually they can scan the skies, they can do transport, they can also do a medical call if they're equipped for that. And not, I mean, like the stuff they have available. I mean, if they have flight medics.
Right. Yeah, you're right. It's just another. The helicopter they showed a picture of didn't have the medical thing on.
But there's still 3 outside of Louisville, and they're all like in the woods.
Right.
But I mean, if he got that far, I mean, it has been 7 days. It doesn't seem crazy.
Right.
39 for late night.
We shall see.
Yeah. 11:06, London, 10-10. 4218.
I think we are going to use Joey C's breaking news. Breaking news, breaking news.
LA 50. On scene. 2218.
The case of the mailbox. So I'll have Tony explain a little bit more about the terrain. It's so complicated if you watch the press conferences. They're like, oh, well, it's really hard even during the day to navigate that terrain out there. The forest is so dense. But when we've seen, like on Google Earth, where we can look at the trails and just different sections of the forest, it's not that dense.
Right.
I mean, you gotta get far into the Daniel Boone National Forest for it to be that thick.
The vegetation's not very thick, but I mean it's thicker, but it's no more than your average forest. They don't. If you're familiar with the kudzu vine that they have in the south, there's some of it, but not a ton of it. Now, as far there are some cliffs and stuff that would be easy to walk off at nighttime above caves and stuff like that, but the terrain is not so bad that they can't really maneuver it. I mean, it's the Appalachian Mountains, so they're so eroded down that there's not a lot of elevation to it. So it's definitely not unnavigable. So it's hard for me to understand why they're not doing a more in-depth search.
And we know that this guy and his brother would go off on weekends and kind of go off the grid and survive off the land, even without any military training. This is something they did even as, young teenagers. So they're well aware of how to live off the land. And one thing that they really found helpful was that they could pick up and move to a different area and go check out waterfalls in different parts of the forest and stuff like that, and not have to really worry about carrying a ton of stuff because they had these things called life straws where you don't have to really boil water.
You just pull. It has a filter built in with a straw and a bag. Between the bag and the straw is a filter, and the water gets filtered. It's supposed to be safe to drink it without having to boil it.
And a lot of those, the springs, though, that run through, it's fresh water. It's somewhat already filtered out. It'd be at least safe to drink. It might not look that pretty if you put it in a regular glass, but, I mean, it's no Dasani out of a bottle, but it's not going to make you sick.
Yeah, any of that water that he would find in caves has been filtered through the limestone rock, so it may be pretty heavy in minerals, but likelihood that there's a lot of bacteria in it is pretty rare. I mean, there's still a chance, but it has had some filtering going through those rocks, so it's not just like rainwater sitting in a mud puddle.
And I don't think necessarily this guy would need to rely on eating berries or catching fish and having to cook them or, killing small game and having to catch them. Because people said if he's making food, he's got to have a fire. But not really. I mean, MREs are very easy to carry around. They're not very heavy, and there's misconceptions about MREs. Some people think that they just have to be heated up, but they don't. Not all of them. I mean, heck, even the ones that do have to be heated up, most of the times when I was in the military, we wouldn't have means of heating them up if we were out on a patrol, or we wouldn't really care because it tasted horrible whether it was heated up or not. And actually, some of those MREs, they say don't keep them. If you're like out in the desert or something like that, they really don't want you carrying MREs. I never understood that. I thought maybe it would make them spoil. And then it wasn't until I was actually in the military and deployed, and we were out on a patrol in Baghdad, and we thought we hit an IED. We thought we hit a roadside bomb. It was just like boom, and it shook everything, and it sounded like it came from the back of the Humvee. And we pulled over, made sure everyone was okay, and we're looking at the ground. It didn't look like anything had exploded, and we didn't see any damage on our Humvee. And then we open up the back and look, and there's food everywhere. Those MREs, if they heat up, they get to a certain temperature and then they explode. So it was just a couple of our MRE bags exploded because of the heat. Yeah. And, whew, that was scary. We also had that with vapes when, before disposable vapes came out, back when you had the big, heavy rigs.
Battery low.
I did not know what that was. That was the speaker telling me battery low, which we're going to plug it in, but I didn't know what that was. I thought dispatch was trying to have some sexy talk going on. I mean, this was like a real quiet, hushed voice, and she's just like, battery low. What is this, ASMR? That's not the type of stream we want to do, lady. Good Lord. Let me look at the flight radar. Nada. But look at this one, still on the border. Now, this flight radar doesn't show you where the borders are, really. I guess this is it, right?
Yeah.
That dotted line.
Yeah.
LA50.
But that can't be because look at
Yeah,
Knoxville and Chattanooga, so that is Tennessee.
10-4-22-26.
Oh, there's another one up. Emergency Air Rescue and Transport. That's a medical flight. But where did that... That one might be medical, but the fact that it's following that... Oh, no, that's got to be a medical. So this one is still just hanging out up here. Oh, no, they're both the same thing. So we have two medical helicopters up in the air from Highlands Emergency Air Rescue and Transport, also known as HART. That came from... And I mean, they're just, it doesn't look like they're going to a medical call because they would have to get there in a certain amount of time and get to a hospital. And that, yeah, they're just kind of chilling by the border. I don't really think he would, I mean, he could go to Tennessee, but he does have family up in Indiana, so I thought if he was going to go anywhere, he'd go there.
420. Runner.
Good.
What was that address on 10-year-old?
876.
And every night it's been like around 12:30 is when it would pop off, and then at like last night it was more like 10:30, 10:45. So we thought tonight it might be even earlier. I mean, that's very very different. I don't know. Let's see. So last night was fun though when we listened to some of those clipped calls. Yeah, Jeff, the thing about family, I mean, we know he's got a father in Indiana or grandfather, one of the two, and then he supposedly threatened that he was going to hurt his family. I would imagine they would have people around and keeping tabs. But I don't know that they really do. I mean, we had that call come in where a guy was trying to check on his 13-year-old child and get a welfare check, and they drove out there, didn't see anything, and said, we'll just make note of it. But earlier we did see a helicopter took off and booked it towards London, and I thought it was going to stop, and it didn't. It went just south of London, in between the cities of Corbin and Woodbine, which is where Joseph Couch is from. So I don't know if they were flying around near his house or his family's house or his, mom's house, brother's house, whatever, and they were looking, but nothing came of it. Nothing came of it. This whole thing would be different if there was more coverage and we were getting some more answers. But it's so frustrating. I mean, I can't even imagine those poor people in that state. I mean, obviously it's smaller and they weren't. And here's another, as we discuss it, here's another odd thing, Jeff, that you might not know is there's so many mixed signals about whether or not there is a state of emergency put out. And then we waited 6 days before we even heard from the governor of Kentucky. And they had canceled a press conference the other day, and then the next morning at 8 a.m. they did like a pop-up press conference. Didn't alert anybody, didn't schedule it, so nobody could get there, and then the governor just happened to be there. He was talking about it, said the same thing that we've already heard, didn't give us any new information, and then said, after this, I'm going back to the Capitol, and me and my wife are going to donate blood. There's a national blood shortage. You should all get out and donate blood. That was it. That was it. But very... I just... So, the fact that they... And we did find out when they fired that emergency manager. That emergency manager... Who's the person that's in charge of getting the state and government to help issuing the state of emergency and getting those resources. That's done by the emergency manager, and they fired that person back in May. And they still have not hired anybody. Which is okay. But in the meantime, you're supposed to take somebody, whether it's a chief of police or, somebody that's higher up, and make them the interim emergency manager, along with whatever position they're still holding. So they did just that, and they made Laurel County Judge Executive David Westerfield in charge of the state of emergency. So that's the reason why he did it. But I hope that with all of this community and the state of Kentucky are even able to come up with better plans. And I think that with the way the nation is, you can, whether it's violence or whether it's something like COVID, plans have to be in place. Whether you're a small community or a major city. So there's really no reasoning that I can give that they shouldn't have had something in place. I'm sure more cities and small counties are just like this. But hopefully they're now looking at it and going, whew, at least this didn't happen in our small town, but maybe we should have a plan in case something like this does. I mean, being well prepared. And when a city or government isn't prepared, obviously it means violence can get worse, these situations can get worse, but it also means that people are going to start taking it into their own hands. And like we were discussing last night, I'm confident I can protect myself to the best of my ability.
2231.
And I'm sure a lot of people, even if they're a gun owner, they feel safe. But just because you can protect yourself doesn't mean that you can be multiple places at once to protect all your friends and family. So I've been seeing a lot of reports that people all over the place have kids or grandkids or nieces or nephews that go to the University of Kentucky. And they've still been open as far as I've seen. I have not seen anything about them going to virtual, which would be somewhat easy for a university to do. And University of Kentucky is set to have a home game tomorrow against Georgia. I don't see how you could possibly pack a stadium full of college kids. I don't think that our friend old Joey C here is going to walk into a Kentucky football game. I'm guessing there would be heightened security, but still, I mean, we're not worried about necessarily, old Joey C going there and starting anything. It's more of we've seen so much panic already happening that you don't think people are gonna do what they can to keep themselves safe, and we've seen these copycats. That's the scary thing. That's almost scary because we don't really know if this Joseph Couch is alive or injured or anything like that, though they haven't found him. Let's talk about these copycats or these people that are just scared. A lot of the shots fired calls that we've had that have come in have been, I think, people going out behind their house, firing off their guns, more as a way to say, like, don't anybody try anything stupid. We're armed here, and we will shoot you. So then a neighbor hears it, and these neighbors are not like close, it's pretty spread out, so they hear it and then they call it in saying they have shots fired and they heard shots. So and even this afternoon there was a weird call about a group of juveniles that had guns and swords, and everyone's lost their minds.
Good.
Just do it.
I don't know if you can copy. We got the people with the thermal drone out here with us. We're gonna put it in there and see what we can find.
That was interesting. There we go, boys. So that person just came over the scanner and said, we have someone with a thermal drone. We're going to put it up in the air. But to me, that sounds like they have somebody that's just like a civilian and bought a drone and was like, yo, you guys want to use my thermal drone? I mean, really? Because they got a call and they went out there and responded and they said, yeah, I've got somebody here with a thermal drone. We're going to put it up.
Yeah. And so it's just some random person walking around with a drone.
And who knows how many people from out of state or even just in a different county have been going over there. We know we've seen it on the lives that people have done on like YouTube and TikTok and stuff like that, where they want reward money, or like we said earlier, they're just sick of all this and they're going out to help. But if you see someone in the woods and he's got a rifle and he's wearing like camo or something, you might get afraid and shoot, and it's just somebody out there looking. One of the things that has not been, I know we talked about this, but it hasn't been talked about much, and I'm trying to find somebody in Kentucky that I can have as a valid like reference that I can get in touch with. But we know hunting season started on Sunday, just like a little over 12 hours after the shooting occurred. So they never canceled hunting though. So now you've got people out there, especially with this being another weekend, people are going out hunting. Are they hunting for deer? Are they hunting for couch? Are they hunting for both? I don't know, but I imagine that that's why this weekend could pop off and be absolutely crazy.
Well, it's very reminiscent of the movie Rambo, where they they have vigilantes out in the wood hunting for Rambo, who, and of course this guy doesn't have the training as the movie character did, supposedly, but they have all these vigilantes out there doing it, and they have the local National Guard, and they end up like shooting each other, and it's just a hot mess. It could end up being more of a mass shooting, people shooting them themselves looking for him than it did what he did on the freeway.
And then you've got people that might even try newer methods, like, I have an SLS camera. It's not terribly heavy, no heavier than a FLIR camera. And if I had a drone and I hooked up that SLS camera, it's like the Xbox Kinect. So it will ignore animals and airplanes and things like that. It's looking for a human, whether they're standing perfectly still and like hiding next to a tree, whether they're moseying on through the forest. It will pick them up, and it looks like a skeleton. It maps the human figure out. And it obviously does have infrared and thermal. So, I mean, a lot of people, I've seen the SLS more used for paranormal investigations, to be honest with you, but it may sound stupid, and maybe it is stupid, and I'm okay if people think it's stupid, but, I mean, a lot of these people have made their own SLS cameras by taking the Kinect, because SLS cameras are very expensive, but you can take a Kinect, and if you have the equipment, like a handheld camera or a smaller, like, laptop or even an iPad or Chromebook, you could easily connect to it. There you go. You have an SLS camera for less than $150. So I know if, with Tony having a drone and me having the SLS camera that also is equipped with thermal and FLIR, we could easily send that up and have it look.
We could be the new Dog the Bounty Hunter.
So why aren't people, that's another thing. People could have something like that. But I think if you're flying drones in an area and then I never heard this on the scanner. Supposedly this happened Thursday evening around right after it got dark, which I want to say is around 7:40 there. So it was around 8:20 a call came in that they lost a drone. They said it got shot down. So they went to investigate because they thought maybe they had been close to something. And they, approached old Joey C. and he saw it was a drone and shot it down. When they went out to investigate, they found these people that are living kind of off the grid. I mean, not fully, but they're marijuana farmers. And they didn't know what it was. They've got signs posted about it being private land. And so they shot it down. And I've seen different documentaries on this, especially people that are the Appalachians that live up there, and people that have these meth labs or these marijuana farms. It's private land. It's posted. And if you miss the post and you walk onto that land, they take it into their own hands. They can be kind of crazy out there. So if he stumbled onto, and Tony will explain his experience stumbling onto something like this when, you know, he worked as an engineer. But, you know, you stumble onto these people's property, they're not going to report it. They'll handle it themselves and get rid of it. So there's so many different aspects of this that are absolutely nuts. So I'm going to take a quick minute and refill my drink. Do you want to kind of...
Yeah, so like one of the things I've done, partly I'm an environmental engineer, but also I'm a mechanical engineer. And so one of the things I do is go out to commercial properties and do environmental investigations before people purchase the property. So, you know, the people haven't purchased the property, so they have no clue what's on it. So you go out there and I look around, but what I find out is that there were like meth labs and stuff out there, and just like with moonshine stills and stuff sites, they would booby trap them and put trip wires and stuff like that, whether they were connected to grenades or some type of trap that could injure you. Some of them were even like the old tiger traps in Vietnam, where they take pocket knives and attach them to a stick and, you know, pull them back and put tension on them. So if you hit the tripwire, it would spring in to stab you. So I mean, you know, I think it's very possible, maybe not in the national forest side of London, but on the other side where it's not a national forest, there could be any type of meth labs or booby traps or still sites or anything like that this guy could stumble upon, and it could kill him. I mean, they're pretty serious. And if it's a meth lab, the chemicals they use to make meth with are all hazardous chemicals. So, you know, if a grenade goes all close to it, all those drums of chemicals will go up at the same time.
They have FBI and ATF on the ground.
They do have that. We've heard they have ATF and the FBI on the ground. So.
But at night they said they weren't going to.
But at night, because of the ledges and the cliffs and stuff like that, they weren't going to do on-the-ground searches. And from what we've seen, they haven't done many helicopter searches at night either. I think they may have the first night after it happened, but since then, we really haven't. After it gets dark, everything just kind of shuts down. So.
But the scanner goes nuts.
But the scanner goes nuts with people reporting suspicious people, shots fired, stuff like that. I mean, some of them are, you know, probably people firing shots and stuff because they think they see something, or they heard something. And in the South, it gets a little bit crazy. Hell, on New Year's Eve, people go out and shoot their guns in the sky at midnight, and we always have some redneck that gets killed because the bullet comes back down and kills him. So, people in the South sometimes aren't necessarily the smartest people with their guns. So we're still looking at the scanner hasn't been. We got a helicopter up here. That's a medical, another one of those PHI medical helicopters.
Which that's been the most active one instead of, it's like Kentucky State Police takes their helicopter down at night.
Right, it's like the police and the Kentucky State Police seem to take their helicopters down at night. So I don't know if their helicopters aren't really.
And they told us that the National Guard hasn't responded, but only during the day we see a bunch of Army planes.
Right.
Or helicopters.
We see, and during the day we see more Army helicopters and Black Hawks helicopters flying over than we do police helicopters. So I don't know if I'm assuming
They have to have more information that's important that they're not telling us, or they have nothing and they're scared.
Like today, they spent probably 2 hours. This was actually a police helicopter over an area that's west of London, and I'll zoom in on it on the flight radar now and kind of show you where it was at. It was over here in this area to the, I guess that would be southwest of London. There was a Ravenbrook neighborhood. They had a police helicopter that circled probably for 2 hours in a tight circle, probably less than a mile radius of a circle. So I don't, and you never hear anything about it. I mean, you know, we didn't hear anything on the scanner about it. Just the only thing we heard on the scanner today is that the Camping World, somebody called in and said they saw vultures behind the Camping World, And they sent police out there, of course, to investigate, see if there was a body or something back there. And the cop got there, and there was nothing there. So, you know, that's another thing. You get these people calling in, whether they see something or they don't see something. They call in either to get attention or whatever. But so far, everything that's been called in has not led to a single piece of valuable evidence, from what I've heard.
I'm taking a look at the different stuff around the country right now.
And we're currently looking around at the scanners and stuff, see what else is going on. Because again, it's kind of, we thought maybe on Friday night it might pick up a little bit, but it's still kind of a little slow. And I do have that video pulled up of the Bellinger case that we may play too.
Why don't we play
Matter of fact, I think I'm gonna play that for a few minutes, give y'all something. That'll give us something to talk about. And I'll keep the flight radar up as well, so you can see it while we're watching this video in case something crazy pops off. But unless something changes, it's not really. So. Then I'll turn off the mic so we don't, the scanner and stuff doesn't interrupt y'all watching this. If something big comes in, I'll turn it back on. This is only like a 14-minute video, so.
We're getting close to the midnight hour, so we gotta make sure we have all our drinks ready, bathroom breaks.
Yeah, we're getting close to the midnight hour, so everybody get your bathroom breaks and everything in, because that's when it usually picks up. So.
And we hope to find out the mystery of the stolen mailbox
right.
tonight.
We continue the Scooby-Doo mystery of who stole the mailbox tonight, hopefully.
Nadia Medley was a widow, a single mom to 14-year-old daughter Peyton, and best friend of Rebecca Lorenz.
She was really close with me and my two girls. She was a really good friend, though. I could talk to her about anything and everything. Nadia had gone through a really rough time. She had struggled not only with the loss of her baby, but the loss of her husband as well. And she was pretty down up until she met Mike.
Mike Bollinger, a commercial pilot living in Ogden, Utah, just outside Salt Lake City. One day he walked into Nadia's massage spa, and sparks flew.
It just looked like she was in love. She was so happy, she's smiling all the time.
Rebecca says Mike told Nadia he was single and hadn't been in a relationship for 10 years.
So Mike really got Nadia to turn all of the sorrow around. She became this happy person, and he just took really good care of her. He would take her out. He would take her to dinner. He would take them hiking. Peyton was very close with Mike.
This is super cool.
He took really good care of her too. Like sometimes Mike would pick up Peyton from school, and sometimes he would take Peyton out to lunch. Peyton even got to the point where she started calling Mike Dad.
I'm having a lot of fun right now.
And from the looks of these home videos, it was instant fatherhood. Mike took Peyton out in the woods and taught her how to shoot.
There you go.
They even frolicked in the fallen leaves. Leg wrestling like two teenagers, even though Mike was 60.
They just had a close relationship, but it was a father kind of relationship. Protective of Peyton. Protective, like he loved her.
Mike lived in this modest house in Ogden, not far from Nadia's. But weirdly, Rebecca says the closeness of their homes didn't translate to togetherness in bed.
Nadia had said that she had spent the night at his house one time. I never understood why they never spent the night at each other's house. In my head, he hadn't been in a relationship in over 10 years. So I was just thinking maybe he doesn't want to get into anything too fast.
And then Nadia asked Mike for help paying the mortgage.
She had asked him for help maybe 2 or 3 times on her mortgage because when her husband passed away, nothing was left for her because he was not working. And the last time she asked him, like the second or third time, he's like, well, this is moving too fast. I can't do this. She had told me that she had seen one of his paychecks and it was $10,000 in 1 month. And I'm just like, geez, pilots make a lot of money, you know?
Rebecca says arguments over money led to a brief separation. She shared these texts from Nadia. He told me separation wasn't making him feel any better. We really have a hard time being apart at this point. But nothing could keep these two lovers apart.
Like 2 weeks later, she announced that he had asked her and Peyton to move to Idaho with them.
Mike bought this farm on the outskirts of Caldwell, Idaho. Nadia was so excited she posted this video on Facebook.
Well, folks, here's my new backyard.
When I saw the video of Nadia that she posted at her new place in Idaho, you could hear the happiness in her voice. She was so happy.
It was an adorable little spread, blue skies and green fields covered with sweet white clover. Nadia's horses and dogs would certainly be as happy as she was.
This is where the chickens live.
It was only 5 acres with a small farmhouse, but to Nadia, it was a palace, and she'd be sharing it with her Prince Charming.
I remember Nadia telling me, you know, like, Mike was going to be the guy she spends the rest of her life with.
It seemed to be happily ever after, until the day they got a surprise visit from Mike's wife.